with AI, what do you think is the best tools people should be using that they maybe haven't heard of other than ChatGPT, which is what everyone uses?
Yeah, I like Plex. So I'm finding that myself doing a lot more searches on Plex rather than Google. So it's plex.it is the URL. And so I will Plex things rather than Google things now. So you say about ChatGPT, I would actually really just urge people just get the paid subscription with ChatGPT and start talking to AI more. Spend time each day in conversation with AI. So you don't need a lot of tools. I mean, there are great tools out there and they do stuff and they help automate stuff and all of that. But when was the last time you asked AI, how do I grow this business? How do I do this thing? What are some of the 5 things I should be doing to make this sort of thing work? Create a job description for me. Write a letter to a competitor and see if they want to sell their business to me. Suggest a strategy for buying 3 or 4 companies in the next 12 months. What would be a good complementary fit with my business? Have those kind of coaching conversations with AI and see what comes back. So kind of get in the rhythm of sense checking your thinking, using it as a sounding board, just sort of being in conversation with AI a lot more. I know that sounds kind of weird, but
I really like that thought process. So one of the things I've done sometimes is I will say, this is a scenario, I would think about doing X, Y, Z, pretend you're this person, what would you say?
Yeah.
To try and see the type of advice and guidance I would get. Do you have examples of maybe prompts that maybe you use or ways you personally do that?
I talk to it like I talk to a person. So my prompt engineering is, I'm thinking of buying a company. Here's who I am and here's what I do. What do you think of this? Write a letter of intent to buy this company, or I'm trying to generate more leads for this kind of company. What are 10 different marketing strategies that might work? So I talk to it very much like a person, and I think the more you can just simply talk to it like it's an intelligent intern. So I like to think of AI like it's a graduate, 22-year-old graduate who's got an MBA and also a master's degree in 15 other topics, and doesn't know much about the world in terms of if you just left an intern sitting at a desk, they're just going to do nothing. But if you give that intern something to do, that graduate something to do, then they spring to it and do a good, reasonable job of it. It's going to need oversight. It's going to need someone to check it in. But if you imagine just simply that you had a 22-year-old graduate who was happily just sitting around your office waiting for things to be delegated to, how would you delegate them? What do you need to explain to them in order to delegate something? Is a fun way to do it.
That's a very interesting thought process, and I think the biggest issue I see from people using AI is just user error in terms of the ability to actually ask the question, which is actually, you mentioned earlier about if you had 80, 90 staff, the 10 people remain. The 10 people remain are people with a really high skill set who know how to get the right prompt to get the right result out of it.
So here's the 3 big distinctions that I've got around AI so far. Distinction number 1 is creating versus consuming. So AI turns people into consumers and it jams stuff down your throat. So AI is really, really good at keeping you watching TikTok videos. It's really good at getting you to listen to the next Spotify track. It's really, really good at another YouTube video. You went on YouTube for 10 minutes, but haha, we got you 50 minutes. That was AI. You went onto Amazon to buy one thing, haha, you bought 3 things. That's AI. So it's really, really good at getting you to be a hyper consumer. And it's also really good at being a hyper creator. So the first key distinction is you've got to recognize when is AI twisting my arm to buy more stuff or consume more stuff, and just be aware that this is what's happening. What's happening right now is I'm being influenced by an AI to buy stuff. It's doing its magic. And then you want to try and flip as quick as possible to how do I use AI to be a super creator? So rather than creating 100 units, I can create 500 units. Rather than creating 1 video, I can create 10 videos. Rather than creating a little mini marketing campaign, I can do a really great annual campaign because of my support from AI. So the first distinction is that distinction. It's really important that you make the distinction. I really see a dystopian future potential where some people are dragged down the consumption rabbit hole and their life becomes terrible because they just overconsume. And some people are hyper creators and they make more money than they've ever dreamed because they're hyper creating. And that really is an AI wedge that it drives. So that's insight number one. The insight number two is what I would call vitality versus functionality. So vitality is life force energy, and functionality is the ability to complete tasks. AI is exceptionally good at functionality, but it has no vitality. So humans are vitality, and AI backfills the functionality. I'll give you an example. If I want to throw a party, I have to decide as a human that I'm going to be responsible for throwing a party. I'm going to invite people. I'm going to make a really great night. I want to bring people together. I want people to connect and gel. I want to get 5 or 6 or 7 really great people together, and we're going to have a really good night together over dinner. So AI is really good for making a list of all the potential restaurants that'd be a good fit. AI is really good for writing the email, draft an email to invite people. AI is good at creating, maybe a syntax of what we're going to, arrival times, and, maybe if we wanted to have questions that we'll discuss over dinner, anything at all, or following up after the dinner. So all the functional elements of putting on a dinner party, AI is great at all of that, provided a human decided in the first place that I want to do this. This is something I'm committed to doing. So it's that life force energy. We breathe things into life. And AI can't breathe anything into life. Only humans can do that. But AI can then backfill all the stuff that you need to do that. So that's distinction number 2. And number 3 is the difference between content and context. So content is all the stuff that ends up on a page or a screen. And context is understanding the bigger picture. So humans are very good at understanding the bigger picture. AI can't do that very well yet. So I'll give you an example. I recently completed an acquisition. I understand the bigger picture of the acquisition. I understand my business, their business, what we're trying to achieve long term, why we're a good strategic fit. Provided I have that overarching context, the AI was able to do all the content. It did all the legal agreements, the letter of intent. It did the onboarding document. It did the press release to announce the acquisition. Did the email to the database to tell them to come across to the new service. So all of the content required, there was probably 50 key documents that AI was doing 80% of. And it could only be useful at those 50 things because I understand the overarching context of what we're trying to achieve. So those are the 3 biggest distinctions that I want people to have going into 2025. So vitality versus functionality, content versus context, and create versus consume.
So AI lacks the ability to have perspective, essentially.
Yeah, it's short term. It's like a dumb intern. It's like a graduate, right? It's sitting there. It's like, I don't know what this business does. But if you ask me to research a market, I'll research the market. I don't know what this business does, but if you ask me to draft a letter of intent, I'll draft it. I don't really understand this business, but if you want me to do a little marketing campaign, I'll do it. If you need me to draft an email, I'll draft an email. So it's that kind of like, that's what I mean by a 22-year-old graduate, smart in some ways, but dumb in other ways.